Hey everybody, it's the R&M Show. Wait, what? Ah, the heck with it. Can you dig it? And now, those two guys that are so awesome that they gave Keanu Reeves the original whoa. Here's Ricardo and Mike.
That's right, R&M Show this week because Brett's off in his bathrobe, out by the pool in Arizona, chilling. Well, actually chilling, not literally. You know, he's actually in nice weather over there, but as we're dealing with a bunch of snow here. But M because Mike Sherry, sports planning editor, and the big guy behind everything that we do here at the Post Crescent, anything we do digital-wise, because it frees us all up. He's, do I call it guest hosting? Yeah, I guess guest co-host, because Brett's over there in Arizona. But Mike, we've been wanting you on the show for a while now, because for those of you who don't know the inside stuff here, Mike has been a big part of everything that we do for a long, long time. You just don't see him out in the forefront. We're the guys that are kind of out in the front, and Mike's kind of like the guy in the back, kind of doing everything, all the stuff that kind of frees us up to do everything that we do. So Mike, we're happy to have you on because you are just as opinionated as we are, and I know this, so now we're able to get you on here and on record, and hopefully you'll make some enemies along the way, and that's the plan. So, yeah, welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here. I feel like a little bit like Brett Hundley stepping in for Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, you couldn't have picked a worse example.
Well, exactly. We know how that went, so hopefully this goes a little better.
Okay, well, hopefully that's the case. Hopefully you're going to be more of the Mark Brunell type, maybe so much more than Brett Hundley, but
I have to apologize. The people who are watching, I've got a face for radio, and the people who are listening, I've got a voice for print. So,
at least for the visual aspect of it, Mike, we're in high definition. So, you know, we got to do a double apologize there, but there's not what we can do though. So we'll get through it though. But yeah, we're excited. Episode number 30 of the only podcast dedicated to high school sports in the Fox Valley. Again, I'm your co-host, Ricardo Arguello, sitting alongside with me, Mike Sherry. And don't forget about Rosie over there doing the stuff behind the live stream machine. We're really thankful for you being our producer there, Rosie. We have a lot of things to talk about. Well, not so much a lot, but important things to talk about, because one topic just happened literally, an hour and a half ago or 2 hours ago. Here we're taping here at Post Crescent, the Post Crescent studios here at the Post Crescent. Mike, is Joe Russum, Appleton North girls basketball coach, two-time state champion coach, announced his resignation. It was put over by Nate Warner, activities director for Appleton North. It came as a shock to you, I know, because I came in the office. You had no idea because he was busy shoveling and stuff like that. And the only reason why I knew is because it came over my Twitter right before I left the house, and I checked it quick. It came over from Appleton North, the folks over there letting everyone know. That's big news, Mike. Big news. Because number one, he's the most successful coach in our area. When you think about championships and his win-loss percentage, I don't have it here, but I know it's ridiculous. It's awesome. And number two, because this came out of left field, there was no inklings, no kind of rumblings or anything that he was unhappy, at least from when I talked to him. But obviously, I think in the tweet, Mike, it said to take an administrative position in Menasha.
Correct.
So, how shocked are you? Because we've had many discussions about Joe Russum and how he's a great coach at the girls' level in Division I, the highest level you can get, Mike. It came as a shock to you, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, so close to the season ending, you know, you kind of surprised at the timing of it more than anything. Usually these things kind of tend to fester through the spring, and then you hear about them maybe in the summer that a coach is stepping down. But like you said, Mr. Warner over at North said he's leaving to accept another position at a different school, so in a different district. It's surprising because of the success they've had, obviously. You think you just always think that coaches, and especially young coaches like Joe, are going to be in a position for a long time, especially when they're having success. You don't think they're going to leave when they're at the top at a young age like that. So definitely surprising. But you know, that's the nature of the business. You know, there's we always forget that these coaches are human beings. They've got families. They've got goals and aspirations outside of coaching. And I know you'll talk to Joe at some point today and update the story. But you know, coaches aren't always just coaches. They're family people. They've got career goals. And in this case, it looks like Joe has decided to chase a different career goal.
A couple questions come to mind here, Mike. Number one, and I'll ask him this once I talk to him. What's the next step coaching-wise for him? We know where he's going career-wise. then that opens up a pretty big door over there at Appleton North. Now, obviously, we know they lose Levy and Brecky, and they lose some very key seniors there, but they do return a pretty good, a bunch of players who played significant roles in their championship run here. Well, actually, both championship runs when you think about it, the past 2 seasons. So that's what's going to start speculation, Mike, is who's going to be the next coach over there at Appleton North, because you're walking into a program that has the highest of expectations, 1, 2, has had so much success, and 3, has very engaging parents, and they're also very vocal in how they expect the program to be run and all that kind of stuff. So I don't want to speculate on who might be there, but that coach who's going to they're going to be walking into a heck of a program, and one that's going to expect success right away, Mike.
Absolutely. Let's just put it this way: Nate will not have a shortage of candidates for this position. North is one of the biggest schools in the state, one of inarguably the best conference in the state.
Right.
As you said, they're losing a few players, but they still got a ton of talent coming back and a good youth program. There will be no shortage of candidates for this job again. Who that might be right now, it's way too early to know, but they're definitely going to get a good coach, and they're going to get a lot of coaches interested in that job.
Well, let me speculate, because that's what I do. Not so much for who's going to take that Appleton North job, because I have to look at who's actually free and stuff like that. If it was last year, we were thinking, oh, well, this is where Jeff Chu kind of steps in, after being unceremoniously, kind of let go at Hortonville. Would he walk into Appleton North? He would have loved that. But for what Joe Russum is going to do next step, now you think, okay, where he's taken Division I girls to the highest level of what you can do in the Valley. Does he turn, maybe if he does this continue to coach, is it something, and this is what I'm going to ask him, is it time for you to go try the boys side of it? We've seen some successful conversions, going from girls and boys to girls or whatever, and I think that he would make a fine boys coach because of his demeanor and what his expectations are. He lays it out very concrete. Mike, I'm expecting him actually to go to the boys side of things.
Well, that's interesting. Menasha has a pretty good boys coach there right now, and Coach Malik, he's done a good job with that program. They've got some good talent. This year had a 500 record, I think the boys did at Menasha. So we're not here to push out anybody.
No, not at all. Not at all.
No, you're right to speculate that Coach Russum at some point you would think would get back into coaching. He doesn't seem like a guy who was burned out from coaching, although he does push himself and his players pretty hard. So maybe he did feel like this was a chance to step away and recharge the batteries, briefly. But I certainly think he'll be back at some point on the sideline, because he's too good of a coach and seems to enjoy it too much to not do it.
Right, and like I said, I'll be talking with Russum later tonight, so please check us out on postcrescent.com to see kind of the updated story. Mike posted something real quick that's out there right now just to let everyone know of the surprising move, but we'll add context to that later. And of course, I also want to say that on the Sunday we're expecting our all-area girls basketball team to be put forward as well. So we'll have an interview with him when it comes to possibly where some of those players are on the first team and things like that. But Rosie, did you have anything to add to this? Because I know that you and Brett saw him, a couple of times off the court, and I know you bring up that great story of him bopping along to the heavy metal music before one of the playoff games, if I remember right.
Yeah, that was last season against the game against West over at Appleton East, and we were unloading our gear, walking in, and here's this car sitting there just blasting Metallica, just boom, 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 boom. I'm like, wow, that guy's rocking out in there. I mean, like the head's going back and forth. I'm like, what the heck? And all of a sudden, Brett just happens to peek in. He goes, "That's Coach Russum." that was funny.
Yeah, when we had Brecky and Levy on here, that's who he is. That's how it is. That's kind of his demeanor.
Yeah, I mean, he puts up that front that's like very straightforward and just don't talk
serious.
To me. Yeah. Almost like Brett, just kind of like that front. Don't talk to me. Don't mess with me.
Here's a difference between Russum and Brett. Russum, he actually can intimidate you with his looks. Brett is just like, he just kind of chuckle a little bit. It's like one of those little baby lions, they're trying to roar or whatever. That's adorable. Look at Brett trying to be all mean. It's cute.
Brett's like that younger brother who just keeps pestering and you just kind of put your hand in. Just leave me.
Get out of here. Slap him on the side of the head. Oh, Brett, we love you. We know you're on vacation.
That did come as a complete surprise to me. When you told me that this morning, I'm like, what? Are you serious?
Yeah, I know. You were still putting together some of the things over there, and I think you were shocked about that. But more on this is kind of a developing thing, and when we talk about this possibly in next week's podcast, when we'll actually have some thoughts from Russell on this, and maybe some of the players as well who I'll talk to. So big news again. If you haven't heard, Joe Russell, Appleton North girls basketball coach, 2-time state champions, the Lightning. He led them the past 2 years. It has resigned as a coach of the Lightning to take an administrative position over in Menasha. This also irks me a little bit more, Mike, and you mentioned it to me just to get me all riled up about, again, he did not win the Associated Press Coach of the Year award the last 2 years, though he should have won it the last 2 years, and now makes it even more galling, I guess you could say, because he's done over at Appleton North and really doesn't have any kind of individual award to show for it, Mike. And I know that shocked you too.
Well, he went 28-0 last year and won the state title and didn't get it. Beefs up his schedule this year, playing some out-of-state competition.
24-4 this year.
The record wasn't as good, but the accomplishment was just as good this year. Didn't get it again this year. So what I don't know what a guy's got to do. Then win two back-to-back state titles in Division I, but.
Well, he's got to do apparently more than that, yeah. Mike. I mean, he's got to somehow maybe finish undefeated. Even then, it probably would have been a close vote. Who knows what my fellow voters are thinking over there? But no more on that. I already yelled about that the last couple of weeks. I want to get to something that, Mike, that you're significantly a part of. All area teams, kind of like behind the scenes, how we pick them. Now, I did the boys and the girls team, the boys and girls basketball teams, but Mike took care of everything else, which is what? Wrestling, is it boys swimming?
Yep.
As well as hockey.
Boys and girls
hockey. So those four, is that right? So those four things?
Right.
Am I missing nothing? Okay.
Right.
But yeah, so talk about, first I want to get how you kind of put those together, because you kind of have, yours is a little bit different in terms of the way that I have to do it. Now, in years past, I've done it a different way in terms of sending out nomination forms. I didn't do that this year because I felt I was really kind of, I guess, like on the pulse of what was going on. And so I kind of actually I reached out to certain coaches or whatever to kind of figure out who was slotted where. But Mike, how do you go about doing this? Because that's four big ones that you do with those four sports.
Yeah. For me, it's a process that literally starts at the beginning of the season.
Okay.
I'm up here at night, 5, 6, sometimes 7 nights a week.
7 nights a week. Don't lie. You're here 7 nights a week. It seems like.
I'm here when the results are coming in from the coaches, so I'm seeing these names over and over again, and I'm making mental notes. Sometimes I'm making actual notes, writing stuff down on who's having good seasons. Obviously we go into the season knowing, okay, here's our 3 or 4 or 5 best athletes in each sport going into the season. But things can change, so I'm constantly making notes and reminders to myself who's having good seasons, who's doing things like that throughout the season. Then obviously, when you get to state tournament time, that plays a huge role for me, and I know it does for you as well.
Right.
If you lose in regionals and you can't even get your team to sectionals or can't get your team to state, that's a red mark, for a lot of people, and it is for me.
Well, would you call it a red mark more so, or more like if all things equal, you give more preference to those?
That's fair. I would agree with that. All things being equal, we team success and how far your team got is definitely a determining factor. Yeah, that's a good point. And then obviously the input from the coaches, like you said, you'll solicit input from coaches. We've got other ways to get input from coaches. The all-conference teams.
Right. Exactly.
Those come in. The coaches vote. They vote for their first team, second team, honorable mention. So we rely heavily on the opinions of the coaches, and then taking it a step further, of course, you got the all-state teams that are voted on either by the coaches associations or, depending on the sport, the AP has all-state teams as well. So it's all kind of things. It's our observations from going out and watching these athletes in person. You do that more than I do, but I was at state tournament for the boys state tournament. I watched all the girls state tournament games on TV. So watching these athletes in person too is a great way to find out. Make some decisions in your mind or break some ties if you're leaning a certain way. So it's a lot of things, and then it just boils down to trying to make the best decision you can make and trying to be fair to the kids. You don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. You don't want to leave anybody out. But the bottom line is we've got a lot of fantastic athletes in not in the Post Crescent coverage area, but throughout the state as well. When we'll talk later about the state awards, but there's there's so many good athletes. You just try to make the best informed decision you can make, and hope you got it right.
You had, in my opinion, the toughest decision to make, and we won't announce who it was because Mike's team hasn't come out yet. But the wrestling side of it may have been the most toughest. I can't remember a time when we had so many. Well, first off, we had a bunch of champs, and then they're extraordinary champs too. They're not just okay, they kind of came from nowhere and won the championship. That was tough for you to pick, wasn't it? I know we debated a couple times. You asked for my opinion on it, and put it this way: there's going to be people not going to be happy. There's always people not happy with the all area teams, but I think specifically on this one, there's going to be people not happy because there was significant candidates, and all of them could have been considered.
You and I've talked about wrestling, I think, more than any of the other sports. Just the two of us and going back and forth. The hard part about wrestling, and you're right, it was a tough decision and a lot of great candidates. The hard part about wrestling is you're comparing apples to oranges. How can you compare a kid who wrestles at 113 or whatever to a kid who wrestles at 225?
Right.
Can you compare a kid who wins a state title in Division I to a kid who wins a state title in Division III? What kind of game? Because a lot of times they're not wrestling against each other, and if they're at opposite ends of the weight class spectrum, it's impossible to compare kids in evenly. So wrestling was tough. A lot of great candidates. And that's a good problem to have too. It's at least we know we're giving it to somebody who's deserving. There's some years where, not in wrestling so much, but some years where you have a hard time deciding who it is, and not because the candidates are so great, but because the candidates, you wish you had more good candidates to choose from. So it's a good problem to have. But I will take the slings and arrows from people who do not like the decision I made ultimately. But again, I don't think we could have gone wrong with whatever direction we went.
Yeah, we weren't going to have like a six-person player, a wrestler of the year. We weren't going to do that, so put it out. It had to be one. We had to make a tough decision, and that's what Mike Sherry did. First, go ahead.
Just let me say we've had co-winners in the past in various sports. Wrestling was one of them. I think a couple years ago we had a co-baseball players of the year. And Dan Powers, our buddy in photo, was the one who put his foot down and said, enough of the co-athletes of the year. It's too hard to get them together for a photo. It's too hard to get a good photo of two guys together. And he said, you guys got to make a decision. Pick one. And he's right.
And he is absolutely right.
He's absolutely right. And the bottom line is you can't have two athletes either. Something has to set one a little bit higher than the other, and
that's at our discretion.
But that is at our discretion. It's at our discretion.
Yeah. So again, Mike, give out your email for people who are going to be complaining to you. Go ahead, do it now.
Let's see. That's R or Guay. No, no. msherry@postcrescent.com. Like I said, I'll take.
Because people are going to complain either way, but we're so used to this. We've been in the business a long time, so that's fine. And you know what? At least it generates discussion, Mike. And I'm sure your wrestling team is going to generate discussion in a positive way, though, because again of how many great athletes we had in our area. So think of it that way. Look at the bright side. It could have been where we didn't have any champions, and actually that makes it even more difficult in that way.
That would have made it a lot harder.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I did want to get pick your brain, Mike, one more time, because for those of you who didn't know, all the great stuff we had from the boys state tournament, all the great video. Mike Sherry shot that. He shot the Jordan McCabe, the shot. He shot him also. I think going up on the press row. I wanted to get your thoughts on that real quick, Mike, because that was an exciting moment for you. I'm going to ask you flat out, was that the most incredible moment that you've ever witnessed at a state championship level?
In person, yes.
Okay.
I mean, our friend Brett had the great digital story last a few days ago, detailing some of the other great finishes with the Sam Decker shot and the Lamont Weaver shot from 50-some years ago. I think the Lamont Weaver shot still, for me, is stands number one above all else. But as far as me in person being there, on the Kohl Center floor, or in the old days the Fieldhouse floor, that's the best moment that I've had covering state basketball tournaments, and not just the Kekwana game, but the ending of the Velders.
I was going to say your previous high might have been the Brookshaw shot too, right?
Yeah, right, and then going back to I think it was Thursday's Velders semifinal game, they had the winning shot there. I got that on video, and then come back Saturday and boom, the shot by Tuma,
and then down to Brookshire.
Tuma, and then down to Brookshire at the other end, and that was a great moment that I didn't think we could top, and then the end of the Kaukauna-Washington game certainly did.
Rosie, we got to get you to the state tournament sometime.
I know.
Come on down and kick it with us, because that was a fun time. It was a long day. Believe me, Mike put in 14, 15 hours. Not that he doesn't anyway, but he had to do it over at the Kohl Center. Because I know that Saturday you were there at 9 in the morning, or before that.
I was there at 8 in the morning because they had a
3-point shoot
they had the 3-point shooting contest, and they were telling everybody to get there early because they had that St. Patty's Day 5K.
Yes.
On State Street in Madison.
What a day to run it!
What a day to run it! And they're telling us if you don't get there early, you are going to not find anywhere to park near the Kohl Centers. So I got there at 8 a.m. Found my spot to park. Other than a few ushers, I was the first one in the Kohl Center that day. And other than a few ushers, I think me and Ricardo were the last ones to leave the Kohl Center that day. So.
See, and if I was there, we could do so many more Facebook interviews or whatever.
Hey, well, let's petition. Let's petition some from our higher ups to get you over there, Rosie. Yeah, I'm not averse to that. You can go.
Yeah.
You can go to a sketchy Denny's afterwards, like with
exactly,
me, Mike, and Brett did. So we talked about that a little bit last week. But yeah, so Mike again, he's putting together those all area teams behind the scenes. And in our last topic here, Mike, you're also involved. You're getting just a glimpse of what Mike's involved in. Everything in what we do, basically. It's just you don't see his mug up here with our ugly mugs, every week in and week out. But Mike, you also are part of putting together the Northeast Wisconsin High School Sports Awards show. We revealed our winter nominations this Saturday, was it? No, it was this Sunday.
Yep.
This Sunday, in terms of boys basketball, girls basketball, wrestling, boys swimming, as well as for boys hockey, girls hockey, and gymnastics. Again, that show is May 11th. Over there at the atrium, the Lambeau Field atrium, with, of course, you may have heard this already. Aaron Rodgers is our special guest for that show. But Mike, you help kind of like coordinate all of this because you have to pull from each one of our different regions to get those nominations. I haven't seen any of this, by the way. You've kind of taken control of that, which I thank you for. But how difficult is that trying to pull all that together? And not just that, you're managing like a bunch of voters, in that way. So some of them are not very happy about some of the picks, perhaps.
Perhaps. We talked about the all-area teams and how difficult it is to pick those. Now, imagine doing that for not just the Appleton market. Imagine doing that for Oshkosh and Fond du Lac and Manitowoc and Sheboygan and Green Bay, and for the all the papers out in the Central Group. Yeah, it's a huge task. As many good athletes as we had picking our all-area teams, it's multiplied sixfold or tenfold to try to come up with nominees for the awards banquet. Not an easy task, but again, we solicit nominations from our colleagues at the other newspapers. They send in their recommendations, and we put together I put together bios on each of the athletes, send them back out to everybody, and say, here's the nominees. Give us your feedback, give us your opinions, give us your votes on who you think should. I don't. People know we come down to six people get invited for each sport.
Mm-hmm.
Then we narrow it down to 3 finalists.
That's
and
right.
And then we pick a winner. So, coming up with the 6 finalists or the 6 nominees for each sport, difficult for sure, but not impossible. I think some of the sports really came together pretty easily to get down to 6. But going from 6 to 3 and then going from 3 down to 1 is very difficult. And again, you just make the most informed, best decision you can make, and then hope everybody agrees with you.
Yeah, and I looked at some of these categories. Obviously, boys basketball. We the 6 names there are very well known: Halliburton, McCabe, Blair, Domas from Waupun, Plowman from Xavier, Quincy Anderson, Oshkosh. No, those are pretty cut and dry. And in many ways, the girls basketball team as well, with Levy, Oski, Brecky, Frederick, Nagard from Stevens Point, and Jaden Simmons, Green Bay Southwest. And the wrestling team, I think wrestling is kind of the easiest and the hardest because, again, we have so many great wrestlers. And for those of you who don't know, Eric Barnett, Bo Yaneman, Jeremy, I don't even know how to pronounce his name, Schenner. Is that how you Jeremy Schenner of Stratford, Hunter Lupke of Spencer Columbus, Keaton Cleaver of Kaukauna, and Bryce Bosman of Luxembourg Casco. You're talking about 6 champs, right?
They were all champs, and we had some state champions who did not make.
Yes, we did.
Who did not make the cut down to the final 6.
And that's tough. Now imagine Mike having, or all of them having to cut it down to those 3 from that list of 6. So that's tough.
And you're talking about not just the 6 we picked are not just, in most cases, 1-time state champions. They're 2-time state champions, 3-time state champions, and in some cases 4-time state champions.
Yes.
So if it was just easy where all 6 were first-time state champions or whatever, or we had 8 or 9 or 10 first-time state champions, it might be a different story. But Yeah, wrestling again. Just very hard to pick wrestling this year, just because we have so many great wrestlers in our area.
And some of these other categories, I'm just going to read off some of our local kids here. For boys swimming, we have Eli Rocky of Nina. Roque. I am so sorry. Aiden Clark of Nina as well. I think those are our 2 area guys. And then boys hockey, Alec Elkin of Nina Hortonville Menasha. And I think that might have been our only area kid. Girls hockey, do we have Lisa Kramer?
And Marky Ash.
Marky Ash. She's
a Wapaka girl, but she played on the Wisconsin Valley Union co-op team this year.
Have we asked Lisa Kramer why she puts 2 I's in her first name?
I
might have to ask her if she's ever on my show.
And don't forget Maddie Jablonski from
that's right.
Fox City Stars.
Maddie Jablonski of Fox City Stars, just a sophomore too. And then for gymnastics, do we have any Kokona girls in here, or is it kind of made up of a lot of the Central group?
Nope, a lot of the Central group and a couple girls from the Lakes group as well with Bryn Tackett from Manitowoc.
Yeah, so that's our for the winter sports anyway. Those are our nominees for the most part for our Northeast Wisconsin High School Sports Awards show. Mike, you going to try to make it this year? I know you're a busy guy. I know, again, Mike kind of takes the bullet for us, for me and Brett, so we can sit up there looking all fancy in our tuxes and kind of shooting the talk with my friend Aaron Rodgers, who doesn't like me too much probably, but hopefully you get to make it, though. I mean, you could take a break. We can have some of the guys kind of hold the fort down here.
Am I going to get a tux?
I'll ask. Maybe we can get you a tux.
If there's enough money in the budget for a tux, I'm coming. Otherwise, I'll sit in the office with my jeans and sweatshirt on, and I'll just watch the show online.
We'll see if we can make that happen, Mike, because I think you need to be there. But, yeah. So, again, that's May 11th.
Wait, you want me there because now that everybody knows who picked a lot of this stuff, you want me on stage so people can throw stuff, right?
Not just that. Yeah, not just that. I'm going to point out and say, by the way, all the decisions made by this guy right here. When you're going to get an uproar, as we always do every year. But hey, again, if you're the winner of those individual awards, Mike, for those who don't know, you get a picture. You get to go and I don't want to say hang out with Aaron Rodgers, but you get to go backstage. There's a little photo thing set up, and you get to come and take a picture with what is he, one of the best quarterbacks in the league now?
I would think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, but
yeah.
Some guy on Twitter got in a battle with you and said,
about how hard he
Rodgers and Favre don't have very good arms.
Yeah, well, the Twitter battle with me, it was some goofball claiming that Favre and Rodgers, well, Favre more so than Rodgers, I think we all can agree, didn't have rocket arms early. I'm like, what are you talking about? So I'm like, I'm a Bears fan, and Favre was the hardest thrower I ever saw, outside of maybe Elway and Cunningham, and I'm sure there's maybe another guy. Jeff George threw the ball really hard as well.
I do remember when Ron Jaworski said once the Packers drafted him, he said...
Well, not the Packers. You mean Rodgers?
Yeah, Rodgers.
Okay.
When the Packers drafted him, Jaworski said, well, he'll be a great backup, but he'll never have the arm strength for a starting quarterback.
Oh, wow. He couldn't have been more wrong.
Yeah.
Because what's interesting with Rodgers is he's really developed that arm strength. I think he maybe started off as having average arm strength, but whatever he did, I don't know what he did, but that arm strength is among the best, very best to play the game.
Well, his mechanics obviously got a lot better.
Yeah, that's for sure.
In his first few years, than what they were in college. That helps.
Yeah, but they don't have big arms.
Yeah, if you watch Favre when he was 40, he still could sling it pretty good. But if you happen to stumble across a game on NFL Network of Favre back in his early mid-20s, those first few years when they were playing the Cowboys down in Dallas in the playoffs every year, nobody could throw it like Favre.
No.
Nobody. I mean,
So I took issue with that. I'm very vocal and I like to engage and get into arguments on Twitter. But
But are people really literally that stupid that they don't? I'm sorry.
I took umbrage because this guy's supposed to be an NFL writer. Yeah. It's one thing if it's a fan or a millennial who never saw Favre. This guy's supposed to be an NFL writer for Bleacher Report. I forgot what his name was.
Wasn't he comparing him to the quarterback from Wyoming?
Yeah, Josh Allen.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
And I saw, by the way, I saw footage of Josh Allen throwing 75, 80 yards, like in a controlled environment, at his pro day. All I had to do was, it took me 10 seconds to look up Cordell Stewart throwing it 75 yards when he was at Colorado to beat Michigan that last second play. You see other guys throwing it 75 yards. That there might have been one of Rodgers actually possibly throwing it that far. I mean, come on, man.
Well, and I think wasn't there used to be a story that Glanville used to, I think he called Favre Mississippi or something. He's like, hey, Mississippi, go throw it in the upper deck. It just to show people how strong his arm was. He'd have him throw it up in the upper deck at the old Atlanta or whatever dome it was.
Yeah,
that they had.
Well, here's another thing because we're going off on a tangent here, but
my fault.
I remember reading Bo Jackson's kind of like his autobiography or it was like a self-written run, well, not self-written, but it was done by a ghostwriter or whatever, and he claims that he could throw it 100 yards. He threw it from one end of the field to the other. That I don't doubt, actually, because we've seen him throw a baseball.
Yeah.
Pretty much the length of a baseball field.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility that, Favre is possibly the best arm we've ever seen. I mean, if Bo Jackson is throwing it 100 yards, I think Favre can get to 80 in his prime, as Mike was talking about earlier.
I think anything Bo Jackson said he could do, he probably could.
Yeah. I agree with you on that. So, hey, but that's our R&M podcast, the first one. Mike, maybe we'll have to have you on again. Maybe we'll just tell Brett to stay in Arizona.
Well, I got a better idea. I'll go to Arizona. Okay. Brett can come back here.
All right, that'll be a deal. Mike has to get a vacation in here some days here. The guy's working 7 days a week. But, Mike, we appreciate you coming on, my friend.
Thanks.
And joining us on the show. It was a lot of fun. We've been wanting to have you on. And so now we did. Now you're on the list. Now you're our remember when Johnny Carson had Jay Leno guest host all the time? Now you're our Jay Leno. So you better be funny next time I have you on, man. You got to continue the jokes.
I'll start writing some jokes.
Okay, all right. Well, then again, please check us out again on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher for those of you who don't subscribe, because you really got to subscribe. It'll go right to your phone later tonight. Right, Rosie, when you get me the file, I'll put it up there on iTunes, and it'll get, again, downloaded right to your phone. So please check us out. Be a subscriber, again, on the R&M show for today, and the R&B show starting again next week when Brett returns. So until next Wednesday, everyone, I don't have the balls to throw. We forgot to get the balls to throw. Usually Brett's here just tossing things over. There you go. Pull it up. Mike, show off the gun. Not even close.
Okay,
all right,
we got one more. He usually throws two, so come on.
Got one more. You hear the paper crackling.
This makes for some good TV, doesn't it?
It does.
There you go. You got it this time.
All
right, so see you back here again next Wednesday for another episode of the R&B Show on Wednesdays. Have a good one, everyone.